to become responsible citizens and positive members of society in their future. But I know that this is not an easy task, of course not. Our communities and in fact our whole world are very, very different to how it was when I went to school or when my parents went to school and so on. The world is changing and evolving and growing at such a fast pace, and it's getting faster and faster all the time, that what we teach in schools really need to reflect that. And it needs to prepare students to become active members of society in the future, even if we don't know what that society is going to look like yet. So, who is the sustainable teacher is the question. We've came up with our own definition here at the English Classroom that I will share with you today. So the sustainable teacher gives students the skills they need for lifelong learning outside the classroom. We do this through teaching issues of sustainability, as well as soft skills such as critical thinking, research, collaboration, and presentation skills. So you can see here, and I've highlighted, there are two main purposes to the sustainable teacher. The first one relates to content and knowledge that we should be imparting on our students so that they're prepared to tackle the issues that they will face in the future. And the second one refers to skills that we need to be teaching. And this goes beyond just the English classroom. This should be skills that are taught by every teacher, even by parents, carers, anyone who has contact with young students. We should be teaching them these skills as thoroughly as we can and from as young age as possible. So let's take a look at these aims in a bit more detail. The first aim of the sustainable teacher is to give the skills necessary to continue to learn. Now, as I say, the world is changing and evolving much, much faster than it ever has at any other time in our history, in fact. So we need that students can keep up with this pace and that they can continue to learn and upskill themselves long after they've left school. An average student who starts a 3-year university degree will learn, obviously, a lot of information in their first year. And by the time they graduate 3 years later, that information will already be out of date. So we can't expect that all of the skills, all of the content that we teach students in schools today will still be relevant in 3, 5, 10, 50 years. So we need to give them the skills that they need to keep up. The first skill that I think is really important is the ability to analyze the credibility of information. We are bombarded by information all the time, whether it's social media, radio, TV, news, all information, notifications on our phone. You can't escape them anymore. In fact, I read some research from April this year that said the average person is exposed to between 6,000 and 10,000 adverts every day. There's no way we can cope with that amount of information. So we need to teach students to be able to analyze the credibility of information, to prioritize what is relevant to them, and to be able to remember the information that they know is true. The second part of the skills that we need to teach students is to give them the research skills and self-teaching skills that they need. So if they have more interests or desires to learn in the future, they know where they can go to find decent and credible information where they can teach themselves. And we've already seen that it's necessary to be teaching ourselves, even through our generations. So if you think people in their 40s, 50s, 60s today, they're very much part of our workforce, but they didn't learn how to use computers and internets at school. They never went to school to learn how to email someone. They've had to teach themselves that skill, and they've had to teach themselves in order to keep up with the changing world. And as the world changes faster, that's going to be a more important skill than ever before. The next skill is collaboration with others. We live in a globalized society like we've never seen before. Today, I'm stood here in Sweden talking to hundreds of you across 30 different countries, and it's just incredible that we can do that. But it means we also need to learn to work together and work together with people beyond just those who are in the same room as us. We need to be able to work with people who are different to ourselves. So it's really important that students learn this skill from an early age. I don't think any of the best inventions we have in the world today were created by just one individual. So if we want to be able to tackle the issues that we're going to face in the future, we need to learn to do it together. And the final skill that I think is really important here is communication, to be able to effectively express ideas and to listen to others. We are living in a polarized world where communication is easier in the sense that it's more digital, but it's more difficult because we're further apart than we were before. So it's important that we learn how to offer ideas in a respectful way, how to listen to other people's ideas, to be open-minded, and then to be able to work as a group, to share those ideas, to sell those ideas to other people. I often wonder how many people, how many inventors or innovators have had fantastic ideas, but they weren't able to communicate them properly to the public. They weren't able to sell their ideas. How many incredible ideas have we missed out on because those inventors didn't have the communication skills they needed? We need to be teaching that from a really early age. The second aim of the sustainable teacher relates to the content and the knowledge we give them. We need to be teaching issues of sustainability. Now, sustainability is something that affects everyone all around the world in different kind of ways, but it's not become mainstream yet to have a special subject for sustainability. So it's our responsibility as educators to find a way to embed this into our lessons naturally on an everyday basis. At the English classroom, we teach English through the theme of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So if anyone hasn't heard of these goals before, it's not a problem. They're already built into every single lesson. But a short summary is that there are 17 goals set by the UN, and the goal is to meet them all by 2030. And they refer to things like to be able to offer clean water to more people than before, to reduce inequalities, to look after life on land and underwater, to have transparent and trustable justice systems. There's 17 different goals. And we have an Instagram live later on today explaining what they are in more detail. So join us there if you want to learn more. But we need to be teaching our students about these. These are issues that are going to directly affect their lives. So if they don't know about them, how can they do anything about them? And if you choose not to teach the UN version of the goals, that's fine, but do take issues of sustainability. They're important. Take them seriously. And I encourage students to identify individual actions that they can take. Maybe they learn about responsible consumption and decide, I'm going to start recycling, or I want to use less plastic, or even big decisions like to stop eating meat, for example, to protect the environment. Students can't take any individual actions unless they're aware of the problem in the first place. The next issue to teach is to educate communities and our wider societies about the issues of sustainability too. And that will filter through our students. Whatever you discuss in the classroom, students will go home and discuss with their parents, their friends, on the football pitch even. If you teach about migration or tolerance or renewable energy, this will indirectly educate the wider communities that are linked to your school as well in a really positive way. And finally, I think it's so exciting to think that in your classroom today or tomorrow or on Monday, you have the leaders and the philosophers and the inventors and the scientists of tomorrow. They are going to grow into amazing human beings because of what you teach them today. So if we give them the right start, if we teach them about sustainability, why it's important, and we empower them to make a difference, they will grow into the problem solvers of the future. And it's our responsibility to start with this in school. So how do you do it? That's the million-dollar question. How do you become a sustainable teacher? I have written 7 different options here. I'm sure that there are so many more ways to teach the skills of sustainability and the knowledge of sustainability into your lessons. And if you have ideas, please write them on the side of this webinar. We're here to share good practice. So please write them there. But I will go through these first 7 step by step. So the first one I would encourage you to build into your lessons is respectful discussions for and against opinions. As I mentioned earlier, we're living in a more divided and polarized world than we haven't seen for a long time. So it's important that students learn how to manage these awkward conversations, how they can respectfully disagree with another person and listen to their responses. But you don't need to discuss controversial topics. It could be things like whether to have a tax on plastic bags or whether school uniforms should be used. Encourage students to write thoughtful opinions and arguments, to back it up with real facts that they can reference, to listen to the other side, to remain open-minded. Encourage respectful discussions about these topics from an early age. The next one is to encourage fact-checking and research skills early. How much information do we receive every day? We've already established it's a lot. How much of that is true is a completely different question. And this is only going to become a bigger problem in the future. 90% of all the information on the internet has been written in the last 2 years. That's how fast we're creating information. So students need to learn across all subjects from an early age how they know what they're reading is true. Where can they reference it? Where can they source it back to? Is things that they're sharing on social media, is it responsible to share that? Can they fact check it first? And also, where do they find more information if they want? Where can they go to find decent information that they can trust to educate themselves more? Also, practicing group work. As I mentioned before, collaboration is a skill that we should be encouraging, and communication is part of that. If students are working alone or with only the groups that they always work with, they're not being challenged in these ways. Encourage them to work with different abilities to themselves, even different ages if you can, people with different religions or backgrounds or genders or interests. Make the groups as diverse as possible. If students can learn early that how to work with people who are different from themselves, this will be a skill that they will really count on later in life. Look, today, we all come from different cultures and different places, and we need to learn to work together. The fourth option here are multimedia presentations. Now, in the past, or at least when I was at school, a presentation meant standing in front of the classroom with a piece of paper and reading it out to the rest of the class. And I know as a teenager, I was so shy. I really hated doing that. So I never did the best that I could. I imagine someone with learning difficulties or difficulty reading, it's an even more difficult situation to be in. And we'll learn more about this from Manuela later, but it doesn't need to be like that anymore. We have so much technology, we should use it to reflect the world that we live in. So if students want to, I don't know, pre-record their presentation or make it into a TikTok dance or draw their thoughts and explain it to the rest of the class, encourage this kind of creativity and individuality, because it's very rare that anyone has to stand live in front of a real audience and read from a piece of paper anymore. We have so many more options. We should embrace them. Our fifth option here is to educate yourself about the UN Sustainable Development Goals. It doesn't only have to be about the goals. Educate yourself in general. You guys are teachers, but you're also still learners. So don't stop learning. Read free blog posts. We have one on our website, theenglishclassroom.com. Swap good practice with other teachers or members of colleagues in your school. Set up a speed dating exercise where you give each other 5 minutes of the best practice you've used today. Connect with other teachers around the world. Ask them how they overcome problems that they have. Don't ever stop learning, because when you stop learning, your teaching will suffer as well. And we should be celebrating positive examples in our classrooms. Now, a positive example will look different in every classroom around the world. You know what it looks like for your classroom. So whether it's a student who stands up to bullying or encourages recycling in the classroom or speaks up for the first time, or even local businesses who are working towards specific sustainable development goals, let's celebrate them. Let's encourage more of that behavior. Let's have positive encouragement. And the final option here, have this conversation with other teachers, whether it's colleagues at your school or teacher friends you have or teacher friends you have on the internet. Ask them, are you a sustainable teacher? How can we all work to become the sustainable teacher? What is it that we can improve as a school? Do we need to take some extra education? Do we need to change our processes in some way? How can we all take one step closer to being the sustainable teacher? Don't get me wrong, I'm sure many of you are doing really, really good things around the world already. But how can we all take one extra step to become truly the sustainable teacher? Thank you for listening to my part of the training today. I hope I've given you something to think about and some ideas. But as I say, if you have more ideas, which I'm sure you do, share them here in the question and answer, or you can also share them on social media, send them to us via email. We're on every social media you can imagine, so you can contact us if you have something you want to share. Now we're moving on to our final part of the day with Manuela Moraes. Manuela, are you there? Don't tell me we're having more technical issues. Whilst we're waiting for her to join, I can give you an introduction. Manuela has been an English teacher for over 10 years. She holds a bachelor's in international business and a teaching degree in the languages Portuguese and English. Manuela, welcome. You might want to help me with some of these next pronunciations. She is also a psychopedagogue from UNITER and a specialist in inclusive education from Unicesuma. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah. Yes, it was good enough.
As a teacher, she's in love with continuing professional development because that's the best way to be a better teacher, to support different kinds of intelligences in the classroom, and to take actions for change. So welcome. We're really happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much, guys. It's so nice to be in such a plural environment. I'm so excited about sharing my experiences and my knowledge with teachers around the world. This is how we take action for change.
Well, the floor is yours.
Thank you, guys. So first of all, I would like to tell people, in case you have questions, I'll be taking a look at the questions. So anytime I come across, I'll be answering your questions. And at the end, I'll be giving you my contact so we can keep in touch. So in case you